Spartan Nation, Big Ten Nation, Sports Nation, what's going on, everybody? This is Ken, the super cool Spartan. My brother Brian, the super mad Spartan, is playing super producer in the background here. This is our continuation of our classic Spartan series, classic sports series. We are honored, so happy. We're so glad to have one of Lansing's finest here in the building. My man, Desmond Ferguson of Moneyball Sportswear. What's going on, Desmond, man? How you doing?
What's good, man? I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. It's such a pleasure to have you on here, sir. Such a pleasure to have you on here. So just to give a quick background of Desmond's illustrious career here, and I had to write this down, Desmond, so, our listeners can really know who you are. You have a 11-year pro career, both NBA and overseas. You're the owner and creator of the dynamic sports apparel brand Moneyball Sportswear, and you've run a dynamic summer league, the Moneyball Bam Summer League, that celebrated its 20th year. Congratulations on that, my man. That's great. I know me and my brother, we follow it very closely. We read all the different the articles and everything about it. We know that you've had some illustrious, former Spartans, current Spartans play in that league. So, yeah, man, we are big fans of you, big fans of your apparel as well. So I had to let everybody know, what royalty we have here. Again, Lansing's finest. Lansing's finest.
Moneyball is in the building, baby.
So, Desmond, my first question is to you, man, is how did you escape Lansing for going to college basketball? Because reading your stats and background, I'm like, where's Tom Izzo at, man? But, was he, where was he at? How come he didn't get you the green and white? You a hometown sports hero. What happened?
Yeah. I mean, for me, originally I went to University of Missouri out of high school, and I kind of wanted to get away.
Okay.
But, he already had signed two great players that were ranked higher than me in the state of Michigan, and Morris Peterson and Jason Klein.
Oh, okay.
And we all played the same position.
Okay.
And we all played the same position. So, Izzo recruited me a little bit towards the end of my senior year, but with the guys he already signed, it wasn't an opportunity for me to really go there, and I want to get away, growing up in Lansing, being here my whole life. I wanted to go experience something different. Obviously, I ended up coming back home after a year.
Okay.
Went to University of Detroit, but yeah, I mean, they got a national championship out of Mo Peak, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, Jason Klein was really good as well. So we are all similar, 6'6", 6'7", wing guards, played the 2 to 3.
Okay.
So yeah, they had guys in my position, and we all came out the same year. So
okay.
He signed those guys, recruited me a little bit at the end, but it was no reason for me to follow behind that.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand. Especially as a senior in high school, you want to get away from from the hometown and experience life on your own. So I get it. But I've always been curious that former high school players or what have you that live in these these college towns, if especially a big time basketball coach, football coach, if they ever recruit in their own backyard. From a fan's perspective, I always just wondered that. So again, just looking at your illustrious career, I'm like, wow, I know, because Izzo rarely misses. So I'm just like, what happened? So just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, no. He still got some great players, at that position for sure.
Right. So, as a fan, of watching basketball, and I have to say this is very timely since college basketball season just started, the NBA season just started. So, how is it playing in the NBA and playing overseas, as a professional player? If you can just provide some insight, to our listeners here, to our fan base, how is it, with that level of play, the grind, just from the travel to just playing against, some of the world's best athletes, whether it's in, the NBA or overseas. How was that experience?
Man, for me, it was a great experience. 11 years, I had a chance to play in 11 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, my first year playing professionally overseas, I was in the Netherlands over in Holland. And
Oh,
Thomas Kelly
wow.
from Grand Rapids, who played at Michigan State, current
Okay.
assistant coach at
Yeah.
Michigan State,
Yep.
he was my teammate. And
Okay.
and Sam Vincent was our coach, Lansing,
Oh,
played at Michigan
wow.
State numerous
Wow.
years. And
Okay.
so yeah, we had the whole Michigan connection and somewhat of a Lansing connection. So that was a great first year, my first time going out the country and playing basketball. They made it really comfortable for me. So, depending on where you at overseas, really some great fan support, great crowds, but having a short stint in the NBA with the Portland Trailblazers, nothing like that, playing in the NBA and playing in the Mecca in New York and playing against Tim Duncan and Shaq and Kobe and all those guys. And yeah, so that's the highest of the higher that any player that's playing basketball want to be able to play at that level. So
Mm-hmm.
overall experience was great.
Wow. Wow. How was it playing against those guys? I mean, I just can imagine. I mean, growing up, watching the NBA, especially that time, when Tim Duncan was in the league and Shaq, Kobe, that big rivalry that they had, against the Spurs. How was it playing, against
Yeah.
those guys? I mean, that had to be like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a dream come true because I had to go the scenic route. I was 26, when I played in the NBA for
Okay.
the first time. So that was a great experience to play against, my AAU teammate where I got the nickname, Moneyball, and
Okay.
and Robert Tractor Trailer. He was playing with the New Orleans Pelicans at that time,
Oh,
or the
wow.
New Orleans Hornets, playing against a Child Hill hero and Steve Smith,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just kind of surreal for me, but at the same time, being able to seize the moment. But like I said, playing against those Hall of Fame and greats and Tim Duncan and Shaq and Kobe and Carmelo and guys like that, it was truly a great experience.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. I knew that had to be. That, and that's great, man. That's really great.
Mhm.
And having that experience and then transitioning from that to the world of business here with Moneyball Sportswear. So how did you come up with Moneyball Sportswear? How did you get into the sports apparel business?
Well, I guess make a don't make the story too long, but so as a youngster, I was a neighborhood barber. So 13, 14, 15, 16, all through high school,
Mm-hmm.
I was a barber. Cutting hair in my mother's basement for charging $3 a head at the time. And at the age of 16, I was able to buy my first car off of those $3 and $4 haircuts.
Okay.
So that kind of started the entrepreneurial journey. Then fast forward to my first year playing overseas, finally get a chance to make some money doing something I love, and I just started thinking about, how do I want to spend this money? How do I want to invest this money? Because I've seen so many athletes, go broke or didn't have anything to show for it after they got done playing. So at an early age, I was thinking about, how I wanted to invest my money. And then the idea of, making basketball uniforms came to mind because,
Okay.
when I was in high school, the uniforms looked the same. Only thing different was the name across the chest and the color.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first year overseas in Holland. Like I said, with TK and Sam thinking about it. And then I was blessed the next year to go to the Philippines. And while I was in the Philippines, I met some manufacturers that can do what? Make basketball uniforms. So that kind of started the business. And as we know, everything is about relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
as we've grown over the years, many guys I played with, played against, I become coaches, athletic directors, and we've grown from not only basketball but all sports now. But it really just stemmed from wanting to own something, entrepreneurship. Us as young black athletes, we dominate the game of sport, in particular, basketball, football, but no ownership within it. So I was thinking ownership at an early age and was able to grow the business over the years and end up owning something that I'm really happy and proud of and something I'm passionate about.
Wow, yeah, that's great, man. Like I said, the very first time I saw your apparel was at MSU Black Alumni Homecoming. This
Yeah,
was maybe the maybe like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
yeah,
Um, because I'm a part of the MSU Black Alumni, the Detroit chapter,
Mhm.
and went to Lansing. I've been going to homecoming for a very long time, and I saw some of the board members wearing your apparel because they had on, the green and white. I
Yep.
said, "Wow, what's that?" So they explained, "Oh yeah, this is
Mhm.
Moneyball Sportswear, homegrown right here in Lansing, black owned." And Desmond Ferguson, he's the guy behind it. I was like, wow, that's very impressive. So, and then I remember, I
Yeah.
believe they were selling some of the apparel at one of the homecoming tailgates. I think I remember seeing some of that apparel at one of the tailgate parties. So, yeah, that was my first time being
Yep.
exposed
Yep.
to it. And ever since then, um, you know, like I said, been following you, definitely see you on Instagram, see all your posts. I love the shoes. I know you just recently got, doing some shoes, some sneakers. So
Yep.
definitely a big fan of Moneyball Sportswear. So how did you get affiliated with Michigan State? Started doing some apparel for them.
Well, yeah, from a business standpoint, but growing up here in Lansing, I've been going out to Michigan State since my high school days. Playing against Sean Respin and Eric Snow when I was in high
Mm-hmm.
school, and Steve Smith, Magic, everybody in all the open gyms. And to Izzo's credit, he's always allowed me access to the gym, to the locker rooms.
Okay.
I always tell the story. Shortly before I got in the NBA, I would spend late nights, 11, 12 o'clock, out at the MSU practice facility getting shots up on the gun on the shooting machine. I got cool with the janitor, and I always tell kids, I always ask kids, who's the most important person in school? They always say the principal or the athletic director or so forth. I'm like, no, the janitor, because they got the key to every door in that building. So I always over the years, I always got cool with janitors so I can get access to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, from an athletic standpoint, but yeah, from a apparel standpoint, we got the MSU license about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a fairly lengthy process. It took us probably about a year and a half, 2 years to get it.
Okay.
But we used to have T-shirts that we did that just had Beast Lansing on it. Just kind of playing off the East Lansing
Yeah,
name,
yeah,
but nothing
yeah.
that had a license. And MSU licensed that maybe back in 2015, 16, or something like that. I wasn't aware of that, but somehow the director of licensing at MSU ended up going on our Instagram and our website and seeing that we had Beast Lansing shirts, and they emailed and let us know that take that down. That's a lawsuit, et cetera, et
Oh,
cetera. They were
okay.
being kind of an asshole, yeah, kind of asshole about it. But at the same time, that person showed and taught me how to get a license through MSU. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, a year and a half years went by, and we were able to get a license, to sell MSU apparel. So, like I said, it's been about 4 or 5 years, but that's kind of how that happened. And just like you saying, this we was go set up at the Black Alumni tailgate and sell our gear and have it on our website and everything. So we've been going to the homecomings of last 5 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
kind of doing that and just growing the brand and letting people know that we have MSU licensed apparel.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have a store here locally in the Detroit area, correct?
Yep. So we have two locations. We have our Lansing headquarters that we have. We've been there for about 2.5 years. And then we got our Southfield location. We've been there since 2019. So right on Southfield Road between 12 and 13 Mile.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I was telling, me and Brian, I was telling our father, about this interview, and I told him that, yeah, that Moneyball has a store here locally, and I knew it was in Southfield, but I couldn't
Yep.
remember the specific location. But now that you said it, I'm gonna let him know so we can all go up in there and geek out,
Yep.
get our Moneyball sportswear.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Like I
Yeah.
said, right there on Southfield Road on the same side as that Home Depot and Target, like in between those right there.
Oh
Quick place.
yeah, I know exactly where that is. Exactly. Now, do you have
Mm-hmm.
any other
Yep.
licenses with any other universities?
No, that's what we want to continue to grow and get. Like MSU was the first,
Okay.
like I said, and it's not easy. It was a process. It was a process. So we want to continue that and get licensed for the different colleges all across the state of Michigan and beyond.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know,
Mm.
man. Good to know. Well, whatever that we could do here at Q the Woodshed to help you spread the word, about your company, your brand here. we love to do giveaways here, with some of our listeners. So, we're more than happy to give
Yeah.
away a Moneyball t-shirt or something to, bless our listeners and our fan base here. So, we love to
Yeah, let's
collaborate.
tap
And
into that for sure.
so, so let's talk about the summer league. As I was saying earlier, man, that Moneyball Pro-Am summer league is, man, entertaining, very entertaining.
Hmm.
I like I said, seeing some of the former Spartans, who play in the NBA play in that league, see current players play in that league. And the way I look at it is, for the for the current players that play on the Izzo's teams, it's definitely
Hmm.
a good way for them, to improve their skills, harness their skills, because like for the past few years, especially when I've read about it, I've seen players, who use that as a way to really hone their skills. So, how did you start doing the summer league? How did that come to fruition? With your
Yeah,
business.
yeah. So yeah, when I was coming up playing, if you're talking about a summer league or a pro am, I always played in Detroit at St. Cecilia
Mm-hmm.
or down in the Flint pro am. Down there in Lansing never really has anything, and Lansing being dead smack in the middle of the state and with a lot of basketball enthusiasts and players, I felt it was only right for us to eventually have our own one here in Lansing. So my man Glove, who ran St. Cecilia, who I was real close with, he kind of walked me step by step on how to do it here in Lansing. But it had to be different because Lansing didn't have the pros like Detroit had, like Flint had. So we had
Mm-hmm.
to base it around our college guys. So at the time, I went down and sat with Izzo, kind of gave him my vision and see if he's on board because we had to have the college guys on board, and he agreed to it. And that's when we started the first year in 2004. And really, I was playing then, I was still playing, so it gave me an opportunity to try to get some good run in with guys that were home from overseas or pros or college guys, and that's kind of how it just started. So we were doing it, and we used to play on the weekends, and crowds were sparse. Not a lot of people were showing up to the games. So after about 5 years, I was about to shut it down,
Mm-hmm.
and then because we had to jump from gym to gym. We were over at Sexton, we were over at Everett High School, we went to Harry Hill, we were all over the place. But then I switched it up, and we went over to Aim High, and we started playing on a weekday, Tuesday and Thursdays, and that's when it really took off.
Okay.
Players consistently came up. The crowd came out, and we really had a good turnouts because on the weekends in the summer everybody want to travel, and including myself. So
Mm-hmm.
the turnouts weren't as good, but a Tuesday, Thursday in Lansing, not much is going on during the summertime. There's no MSU basketball, which that kind of became MSU basketball,
Mm-hmm.
no MSU football, no high school sports. So we're kind of the entertainment in the city of Lansing. So changing the Tuesday and Thursdays and making sure, the college guys from Michigan State guys to Oakland, University of Detroit, Western, Central Michigan, and so forth, along with the various pros overseas and some NBA guys that come back, and it just kind of took off. So it kind of started as something just as a passion to keep me sharp during the summer
Mm-hmm.
and include college and guys, and then it just kind of took off over time. But it was some rough years where I was going to shut it down because being NCAA certified, which we have to go through all the paperwork to get NCAA certified,
Mm-hmm.
you can't charge at the door. So we weren't making any money off of it in the early years, losing money. And then we got to, breaking even. So we did, but that's more so it's about, and the community impact, just a good family friendly, fun atmosphere. And then if you're an MSU fan, you can't always get access to the MSU guys like you have, like during the season. So those guys are real personable. You can take pictures with them, autographs. So it just gave a good community feel, and over time, and it's been great. We just finished up 20 years of it.
That's great, man. That's great. And as I was listening to you, there was another question I wanted to follow up with. And this is from more of a business standpoint because this is something here. Q the Woodshed said that Brian and I, we're going through that grind from a business perspective of trying to grow your business. And
Yeah.
when you are growing your business, I think one of the things that people tend to forget about is the growing pains. People just want to, they quit on their dreams, they quit on their aspirations because it's not happening right then and there. It does
Yep.
take a level of perseverance. So how did you go through your level of perseverance with, the Moneyball Sportswear and also with the Summer League? Because, again, just listening to your story, you're saying about to shut it down, but, it was that one spark, that one thing that just kind of made it took off. But if you could speak on just the perseverance side of growing a business, how do you, what's your comments on that, or any advice for any up and coming business owners that may be watching this?
Yeah, it's the grind and story really of my life. Like I said, even getting to the NBA for a short stint at the age of 26, I had to go the scenic route. I wasn't top in the country. I wasn't a lottery pick or a draft. Had to go through the CBA, making minimum dollars and overseas, and eventually get to the NBA. Even when I was a coach at Everett High School, I took over a program that was 10-70 over a 4-year
Oh
period.
wow.
In my first couple games, we won 2 and 3 games, and eventually we went to the Breslin and had back-to-back Final Four trips, and same thing with the pro-am. It was some rough years, and then able to grow it. So it's really, for me, it's really about, it's something that you're passionate about and really believe in, to overcome those hurdles, or those tough times, because they come in just like in life.
Mm-hmm.
They come in the adversity. How do you respond to that? And is it something? And I think the passion and love that you have will carry you through that. If you're just doing it for the dollar, and as you know, when you get in business, more times than not, you're not gonna make the money that you think you're making early on.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really about being authentic. It's about being, true to ourselves, and then just believing in things that we do. And over time, even Moneyball, it was a point in time where I didn't feel we were getting the support that we should have been getting, but really that was on us. That was on me to, really be out there more in the forefront, and put the business out there. And I'm big on relationships. So just building and maintaining those relationships over time, and letting them grow and be fruitful for our business. That's kind of what I've done at every aspect of my life, is just
Mm-hmm.
put the head down, grind, treat people right. And obviously in business, you want to have a good product, good customer service, etc. Those should be a given. But for us, it's just authenticity, being authentic in who we are.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's great advice. That's great advice. Because like you said, and the early times of whatever you're doing, you know, for business, whether it's a podcast or making apparel or whatever the case might be, it's sometimes it's this, if you're a sole proprietor, it's just you, yourself, and yourself looking in that mirror every day. Or if you have a partner, it's just you and your partner,
Yeah,
just like, okay, what can we do? All these different crazy things. We can just, throw darts to the dartboard to see what works, what doesn't. So always consistently being in the lab, just trying to think of different things to get that spark. But again, if you keep at it, eventually something will pop off. But you have to just have the, that fortitude to keep things moving. So, definitely thank you, for that
yeah,
tidbit there.
yeah. It's a 1% that get to it in success overnight. And we live in a microwave society now, where we all want it right now, right now.
Right, right.
But and a lot of people quit before they're actually able to reach their blessing, or the fruits of their labor. So that's my thing. Just wait it out, keep grinding, and eventually it'll turn over in your favor.
I agree with that. 1001%.
Yeah.
So let me transition to your time playing at UOD. How was it playing there at the University of Detroit with the Titans?
Yeah, man. Aside from being with my wife and getting married, that's probably the best decision I ever made in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, originally I went to University of Missouri on a basketball scholarship, kind of for all the right reasons or wrong reasons, but was able to transfer back and come to University of Detroit Mercy, and really help and be a part of that spark that changed things around. We got a chance to go to the second round of the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. At the time, I left with the most amount of 3 pointers in a 3-year period.
Mm-hmm.
Had a record for 10 threes in the game. But got a chance to be, because I was born in Detroit but raised in Lansing. So
Okay.
all my family is in all my family's in Detroit. My mother moved here to Lansing when I was 2 years old, so it was just me, her, and then eventually my brother. But my
Okay.
grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, everybody. Right. So I had a chance to play right in front of family, which was great. But more so the experience with the playing for the great Perry Watson and the way he talks not only about the
Yes.
game of basketball, about the game of life. And then, playing with greats like Jermaine Jackson and Rashad Phillips and, Willie Green, who's now the, head coach of the Pelicans. He was a freshman my senior year. But overall,
Yes.
just a tremendous experience. And then fast forward from a business standpoint, where I wasn't thinking at that time, Detroit is where we got our first starter uniforms because Detroit Finney was our first school. Then we did Radford and then we went Persian. And over the years, we've done every PSL school in the city of Detroit. And those
Okay.
was from relationships that, when I was at UAD, some of the coaches that came to my games, the athletic directors, knew what I was about. Obviously, the product has to be be good as well, but I was able to establish some of those relationships. So my time at UAD, and the success we had was great. I was just at the Horatio Williams event last Thursday with the hoops and culture, and my college coach Perry Watson was there, so we got a chance to sit down and talk over a couple games and just kind of still picking his brain. But he was the guys that he brought together, the group that he brought together was special, and he did some great things, not only at the college level, but being at Michigan with the Fab Five, and then even going back to high school,
Mm-hmm.
coaching Jalen Rose with Sean Leonard and Howard Ayers. And I was able to play for a legend, and we were able to, make some legendary times right there on 6 Mile, Livernois.
Oh man, that's great, man. That's great. Yeah, I've always had an affinity for Titan basketball, primarily because I like their uniforms, the color scheme, the red, white, and blue. I've always had an affinity for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's great. That's great, man. So wow, this has been a great interview here, man. So um I'm going to get you out of here on this. Here on Cue the Woodshed, we do what we call fun football facts because primarily, our podcast is mainly about MSU football. But the past last year, we transitioned to doing some basketball. We've had a chance to interview
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Bell, from the Flintstones and hopefully
Yep.
we get some more, Spartan legend basketball players on here for this upcoming season. But I have a fun hoops fact here for you. See, if you can
Okay.
guess this or not. So, and this is for involving UAD, the Titans. So
Okay.
it's multiple choice. So there's you got three answers
Yep.
to choose from. So how many times has MSU played the Titans? 55.
Ooh, played.
Yes. How many times has MSU basketball played UAD?
Yep.
So the choices are 55 total times, 62 total times, or 68 total times.
Dang. That I would say ain't none of the above is the answer. Yeah,
No,
it's definitely one of those three.
it is. It is. And I'll
I'm
give you a guess, but
say
I was
55.
surprised. I was surprised when I found this fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 55. Then I'm gonna go to low number.
Okay. The answer, well, you were one. The answer is 62. MSU
Dang, that's
basketball has
crazy.
played. Yeah, MSU basketball has played the UAD Titans 62 total times, and their record against UAD is 45-16.
Wow, that's
Yes,
crazy.
yeah,
I wouldn't even thought they played each other more than 10 to 15 times, but 62, that's crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I was like you, man. When I first saw this, I was like, what? And I saw that.
Yeah.
I think that MSU plays UAD this year, if I'm not mistaken, because
Yep. Well, what'd you say the record was?
45-16.
Okay,
Yep.
so it was a it was a period where UAD beat them 3 years in a row, and I was part of that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And Izzo took us off the schedule.
That
Yeah.
is funny, man. because as tough as Izzo's schedules, he took UD off the schedule.
Yeah. He would never come to Callahan. We played him. It was a double or triple overtime. I remember at Cobo. Played at Cobo, and then we came to Michigan State. That was my time coming home, and we won. And then I remember my senior year. That one when they had Michael Jackson on the squad. But yeah. No, that was. And then that matter of fact, they took us out there next year in 2000. That's when they won the national championship. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow, that's an extra hoop, fun hoop fact with that. Like, wow. So
for sure.
yeah.
62, yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, we thank you, Desmond, man, for coming on Cue the Woodshed here with this interview. Like I said before, we're big fans of you, big fans of your brand. Whatever we can do to help spread the word, about Moneyball Sportswear, we'll definitely do that. And with that, we are out. Cue the Woodshed, Classic Spartan Series, Lansing's finest, Desmond Ferguson, Moneyball Sportswear. Make sure y'all check it out. It's a great brand, especially the MSU apparel. Definitely love the MSU apparel. So, and we are out. Go green and go white.